In the quiet corridors of the human psyche, where our deepest thoughts and fears intermingle, there lies a mystery that has captivated minds for decades. Imagine two souls, indistinguishable from one another, entangled in a bond so profound that their thoughts and feelings seem to dance in perfect synchronicity. What happens when this psychic connection blurs the lines of reality and challenges everything we know about individuality? This is the haunting tale of the silent twins, June and Jennifer Gibbons, whose extraordinary lives unfold like a chilling novel. As we unravel their story, prepare to explore the eerie facets of connection, isolation, and the enigma of the mind. You won't want to miss what's to come. It's a journey that will leave you questioning the very nature of our relationships and existence. Born in 1963 in Barbados, the Gibbons twins grew up in a household that seemed to echo with the enchanting yet eerie limitations placed upon their lives. They arrived in Britain at a tender age, facing the disorienting challenges of cultural difference and social alienation. The world around them, filled with unfamiliar sights and sounds, became increasingly daunting. Instead of embracing the vibrant new life ahead, they found comfort and refuge in each other, a bond that, while protective, grew increasingly isolating. As they retreated into their own universe, their family and teachers struggled to reach them. Isn't it fascinating how deep connections can sometimes morph into barriers? As their childhood unfolded, it became evident that June and Jennifer were not just ordinary twins, they shared an unexplainable psychic connection. This profound bond went beyond mere telepathy, linked not only in thought but also in spirit. Stories often weave magic with reality, but the Gibbons twins brought this concept to life. They communicated in a language entirely known to them, a secret code that only they understood. Describing it as crude and guttural, this private dialect allowed them to share their innermost thoughts, marking their transition from mere siblings to cosmic partners navigating their troubled existence together. Can you imagine the allure of possessing such a connection? But what might the consequences be when that bond is so intense it overrides the outside world? The twins' lives took a dark turn in their early adolescence. Their retreat into the realm of imagination morphed into a shadowy world, a place where their thoughts grew ominous. They started venturing into writing, creating stories that vividly depicted the chaos of their minds. In their narratives, one could perceive glimpses of frustration, anger, and a desperate need for expression. Their writings mirrored the turbulence of two young girls yearning for a voice in a world that ignored them. Perhaps the most chilling aspect? Their protagonists often faced harrowing fates. What were they trying to escape? And how deeply does trauma shape our creativity? As their creative efforts intensified, the Gibbons twins began to withdraw further from the outside world. The tight-knit connection that had begun as a source of comfort now turned into a prison, locking them away from friends and family. Teachers and peers identified their unsettling silence, yet their bond cut them off from help. It was almost as if they were prisoners of their own minds, their inner sanctuary constricting rather than liberating. Can it really be possible for a bond to transform into a cage? This peculiar timeline continued, and the girls' isolation gave rise to bizarre behaviors that would eventually garner the attention of professionals. They were placed under scrutiny as experts tried to decipher the nature of their relationship. It was during these assessments that the shocking reality of their struggle became apparent. The twins communicated more freely among themselves than with anyone else, leading researchers and psychologists to ponder astonishing implications. What if their connection wasn't just a product of shared experiences? Could it be an authentic psychic link? In 1974, as the twins' behavior spiraled deeper into darkness, the family sought help. June and Jennifer were admitted to a psychiatric hospital, a place that would begin a new chapter in their harrowing tale. The professional world, intrigued yet baffled, wrestled with the twins' perplexing dynamics. The doctors watched how they played games and shared intimate conversations, exploring the depths of their connection. To outsiders, it may have seemed like an enigma wrapped in strangeness, but for the twins, it was their comforting reality. Here's a thought: how far do you think the human psyche can stretch before it snaps back? Yet, the clinical environment did little to penetrate the walls they erected around themselves. Instead, their psychiatric visits reiterated their silence, casting a shadow over the doctor's assessments. Professionals documented their secret language and interactions, realizing whatever transverse thoughts they experienced was a world unto itself. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but attempts at breaking their silence only reinforced it. Since the twins deemed the outside world unworthy of their voices, the more they were pushed, the deeper they retreated into silence. In this process, something terrifying emerged. The dynamics of their connection began to change. June and Jennifer were no longer merely inseparable souls, they became conduits of each other's emotions. If one felt joy, the other beamed with exhilaration. But if frustration arose, they delved into the darkest depths of despair together. Their emotional resonance reached new heights, an unholy partnership whereby a mere thought could bring a visceral reaction in the other. Fellow inmates, rather than feeling envious of their bond, grew unsettled by the twins' unspoken connection. This phenomenon compels a chilling question: could a shared sadness be more powerful than shared happiness? After nearly a year of treatment, the twins were released back into the world, but their connection was more formidable than ever. Though they returned home, the world outside didn't recognize their struggles. Family, friends, and community remained oblivious to whatever darkness cloaked their spirits. Pressured to fit into societal molds, June and Jennifer continued to isolate themselves further, expressing a need to guard their sanctuary. They often orchestrated their lives around elaborate games of fantasy that mirrored their experiences. In these stories, they wielded all control and ownership, a sentiment desperately needed after feeling robbed of agency. Their growing detachment caught the attention of local authorities. The twins became embroiled in a series of increasingly erratic behaviors, actions that seemed to provoke curiosity but veered into the realm of eerie fascination. Perhaps their struggles were attempts to manifest an external reflection of their internal turmoil. In a particularly alarming incident, the twins attempted to set fire to their family home. This frightening act led to questioning their sanity, yet their behavior seemed rooted in the longing to break free from their invisible binds. Often, this chaotic introspection leads to the larger question: how does despair shape one's story? The Gibbons twins' story took yet another twist when they decided to distance themselves from their loved ones even further. They lived profoundly entrenched in their shared fantasies, developed a need for freedom, and conducted secretive activities against societal norms. The blurry line between reality and imagination began to fade, intensifying their psychic bond. Their actions became more erratic. It was as if their inner turmoil manifested into a terrifying reality. From fanciful storytelling to sinister plots, their world spiraled deeper into chaos. The question looms: could a strong connection to another person ultimately push one to the edge of sanity? As we journey deeper into this tale, we must confront one barrier that seemed to fortify around the twins. The fear of letting anyone else into their lives strangled any notion of friendship. The twins had chosen their path in isolation. With a firm grip on one another, June and Jennifer began experimenting with the fragile line between fantasy and reality. Their desire for independence, along with their need for solitude, became a reciprocal push and pull that, while binding, was incredibly destructive. You might be wondering how these seemingly innocuous bonds of twinship could harbor such a tempest. As they battled their inner demons, the rituals of their togetherness led them down a darkened path of potential violence. This culminated in a shocking act, one that neither could escape, for in the end, every increase in psychic connection carries with it an equal burden of consequence. This chapter of silence and chaos led them to a point of no return. So, as we delve further into this labyrinth of duality, where souls are connected yet scarred, what awaits us may be beyond comprehension. The silent twins are just beginning to reveal the terror inside their universe, and while the journey has been unsettling, it is only a prelude to the chilling revelations yet to come. Prepare yourself for the unsettling truths that will emerge as we continue this exploration into the hearts and minds of the silent twins. And trust me, What comes next will leave you speechless. As we draw closer to the climax of June and Jennifer Gibbons' story, the tension in their lives reached a fever pitch. Their connection, once a source of security, transformed into a visceral entity, festering in a darkness that seemed to circle them like vultures. The twins could sense this growing malevolence, but their strategy of withdrawal from the world only tightened the noose of their inner turmoil. Each day became a measure of escalating dread, the shadows of their isolation dancing more menacingly into the recesses of their minds. In their late teens, June and Jennifer embarked on a tumultuous journey, engaging in acts that juxtaposed their vivid imagination with a stark, chaotic reality. They became increasingly interested in the eeriness of crime, often concocting elaborate personas that danced on the edge of malevolence. Over time, this fascination morphed into a series of increasingly reckless incidents, brief escapades that transformed from harmless pranks into alarming assertions of control. One night, the twins committed a bizarre burglary, stealing a vehicle for a joyride that sent shockwaves through their quiet community. The incident raised alarm bells among local authorities. The twins were seen as peculiar creatures, entrancing yet detached from the norms of society. They spiraled further, their attempts to assert their individuality becoming convoluted within the tapestry of their unshakable bond. Fascinated by the notion of chaos, they began weaving darker tales into their fantasy games. The lines between storytelling and reality warped dangerously, revealing subconscious fears and unprocessed emotions. This evolution of their behavior prompted questions about the fragile nature of sanity. Could they untangle their true selves from the suffocating bonds of twinship? Yet, in a twisted way, their behavior also invited the scrutiny of a community that had long overlooked their existence. As whispers of their exploits traveled, people began interpreting June and Jennifer's journey through the lens of fascination and horror. Where they once inspired curiosity, they now elicited lament and concern. Strangers whispered superstitions, and anguish painted their tale in shades of grim allure. The twins, once seen as mere outcasts, had transformed into figures shrouded in a grotesque mythology, orchestrated by their own decisions. The culmination came in a moment that shook them to their cores. One fateful afternoon, in an act that echoed their unyielding bond, the twins faced their own creation. They concocted a plan to commit an unthinkable act, one that would sever their ties with their past and propel them toward their freedom. This wasn't merely an act of rebellion, it was a desperate plea for emotional release. They believed that engaging with the chaos within would transmute their shared darkness into a different form, perhaps one of liberation. Yet, liberation came at a grave cost. What unfolded was a harrowing scene that would haunt both their lives forever. In an attempt to execute their plan, the twins found themselves cornered, unable to fully escape the emotional matrix they had constructed. The act, cloaked in mystery, became an echo of the deepest trenches of their emotional resonance. The adrenaline of the moment fused with an inexplicable pull toward tragic consequences, and it became clear this was a threshold neither was prepared to cross. By intertwining their fates so intricately, they sealed their destinies in a way they could not fathom at the time. After the smoke cleared, June and Jennifer were thrust into the judicial system, scrutinized as subjects of intense speculation. The inquiry that followed meticulously chronicled their lives, dragging the sisters into the light of an unforgiving world. Experts battled for understanding, intrigued and alarmed by the way they had spun the threads of their existence into a narrative of erratic behavior. Yet they remained silent, vigilantly guarding the secrets of their shared camaraderie. Even within the stifling walls of a courtroom, they exchanged glances that spoke a multitude of unvoiced thoughts. As they faced isolation anew, the twins were placed in separate facilities where the haunting reality of their connection became painfully clear. In their enforced separation, they experienced an emotional agony previously unknown, a severing of bond that resonated with relentless intensity. Each moment apart rippled through their souls, a reminder of the depths of empathy and sorrow they had navigated together. The silence became deafening, marked by an acute awareness of the pain dwelling in the absence of the other. Whether their bond was a source of strength or anguish, the reality was inescapable. Gradually, the understanding of their interwoven lives began to unravel. June realized she had always been the more outspoken twin, bursting at the seams with thoughts and aspirations. Jennifer, on the other hand, offered a quiet cadence that often guided their collective decision-making. The prospect of living without her counterpart evoked an existential crisis. How does one define individuality when standing in the shadow of an extraordinary connection? As they grappled with their identities, June and Jennifer learned the true meaning of solitude. Separation may have been imposed upon them, but it was undoubtedly a healing journey that would make them confront their inner demons, forcing them to scrutinize their shared grief, fear, and madness. As the years wore on, June found a path toward introspection. In therapy sessions, she learned to navigate her emotions and articulate her experiences, delving deep into the psyche that had once captivated her. Her ability to reflect on trauma allowed June to recognize the toxic undercurrents of their bond. She began to see that their intense connection, while alluring, had become an emotional vortex, rendering both twins incapable of genuine self-exploration. The world had continuously mirrored their fears, and the tragedy was not merely their fate but the yearning for autonomy that had surfaced too late. Jennifer's journey, marred by her silence, took a different turn. As she wrestled with feelings of abandonment and resentment, she revealed a complexity few had anticipated. The forced independence blasted open sudden pangs of vulnerability. In her solitude, she yearned for what had come before, grappling with the intricacies of identity outside the notion of the twins. She began to unearth the roots of their forged identity but struggled under the weight of unspoken trauma. The experience of separation redefined their coalescence, transforming their bond into a composite of what once was and what could have been. Then came the fateful day that would alter everything. A few years after their separation, Jennifer succumbed to a sudden and unexpected illness. June received the news like a lightning strike, a moment of deep realization crashing through the veil of her consciousness. The emotional resonance that once anchored their existence now reverberated into a void. Jennifer had become the anchor to which June's identity was intrinsically tied. The trauma of mingled lives gave way to an intense loneliness, forcing June to confront the overwhelming grief of losing a part of herself. Why did it take this final, tragic event for June to realize the gravity of their connection? Perhaps it was not just the loss of a sister but an acknowledgement of the intertwined fates they had constructed. Jennifer's passing altered the landscape of June's mind, compelling her to articulate the emotions she had cinched in silence. She learned to channel their shared stories into an exploration of healing, utilizing her pain as a catalyst for creativity, embracing the vibrant colors laid hidden beneath layers of fog. Through her journey of grief, she unearthed the untamed spirit that had long been trapped within their confined world. The chilling tale of the silent twins encapsulates the extraordinary complexities of love, isolation, and the often misunderstood depths of human connection. June's journey toward recovery and understanding stands testament to the vulnerabilities we conceal as we traverse the labyrinth of life. While the bond between June and Jennifer was potent, the pain it harbored led to profound revelations that resonate beyond the confines of their shared existence, spanning the very essence of what it means to be human. As we reflect upon their lives, we are reminded that connections, however deep, can also become prisons. The silent twins unearthed a haunting reminder of the fragility of our bonds, guiding us to question our own emotional entanglements. The echoes of their experiences beckon us to reconsider how we navigate our relationships, ensuring that we nurture an individuality despite the worlds we cohabit. The story of June and Jennifer Gibbons, though bereft of traditional closure, encourages newfound understanding and compassion toward those who tread on the edge. Their journey, marked by darkness, ultimately reveals a glimmer of hope, the possibility of transformation through shared suffering. So, as we conclude this unsettling exploration into the hearts and minds of the silent twins, may we carry forward the lessons of empathy, connection, and the importance of embracing not only the bonds we cherish but also the voices that lie within us, waiting to be freed.